Here with Jon Taffer of Bar Rescue, the star of Bar Rescue, and a Las Vegas resident. Good to see you again, John. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Day 36 for me in my home in Summerlin here.
Yeah, same. That's my count too. We're on the same calendar. Yeah.
I guess we are. Yeah.
Yeah. The last time we saw each other was, if I have it right, was March 7th. We were together at the Cleveland Clinic, Lou Rubro Center Power of Love, Keep Memory Alive Gala at MGM Grand. We talked there, and ever since then, things seem to have really changed in our world. How are you holding up right now? What are you doing to keep yourself fulfilled right now?
Well, I'm lucky. You know, I get to do interviews like crazy. I still have project that I'm working on, my mixology line, our seltzer. You know, we're still in stores and retail stores. You know, I'm lucky. I'm getting to keep busy, and I'm working on resetting. John, I've been really focused these past 5 weeks. Rather than freaking out about the pandemic, I've just been focused on what do our businesses look like when we're open, operationally, communications-wise, motivations-wise. So, you know, I've been picking this apart and trying to come up with a resetting plan for America because really, we're not reopening Vegas. We're sort of resetting it because things are going to be different.
Yeah, I was, you know, and knowing you since you've lived in Las Vegas since about 2016 or so, 17 when you got here.
This is my 7th year living in Vegas.
Oh, 7th year in town. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's always been rescue, and you know, we know you as the guy who comes in and has ideas and can see a space and make it better. This is a whole different kind of when you talk about resetting our industry here in Las Vegas. That's a whole different scale. What do you think what is it going to look like when we crawl out of this thing? To you, what do us as consumers and those of us who live in Las Vegas have to be aware of?
Well, obviously, we're going to be driven by trust. And every restaurant is now. If you think about it, John, you'll go to a restaurant that has your second favorite hamburger because you think you trust them more with regard to their practices than the place that has your first favorite hamburger. That's a big change in the whole dynamic of doing business. So as a destination, obviously we have to build trust. As a convention center, we have to build trust. But what worries me about Las Vegas and our turnaround is, of course, we're so based on what Southern California does from a leisure standpoint. So, you know, how their society behaves with regard to traveling, staying in hotels is going to be very, very important to our success. But, you know, if the airlines don't operate in a way that builds trust in the consumers, that's directly going to affect us. If the airports don't operate in a way that builds trust in the consumer, I mean, that's going to directly affect us. So there's a whole bunch of pieces to the travel sector that really need to come together and create enough trust for our guests or our tourists to go through those steps to then come to Las Vegas. And there are little things in some cases and big things in other cases. But there's a lot of procedural changes. I don't think slot machines are going to be as close together. That's an obvious one, John. You know, when we reopen, will all the restaurants be open?
Right.
How will that work? Are the restaurants going to be spread out? Because, you know, I'm a proponent, I've been saying this for weeks, is that, you know, we're certainly going to have to probably spread tables a little bit, spread bar stools a little bit. So you know, all of our capacity numbers start to change. So when we take a look at opening the large hotels, of course, we have the largest in the world. When we take a look at opening those, the scaling change. Are the top 10 floors not opened? Is only certain sections of the casino opened? Do we spread within those sections? These are little changes, but they change our business models a lot, John.
Yeah, let's talk about the resort industry and hotels specifically. Let's say we have one of these mega resorts that are on the Las Vegas Strip. Would you advise that the company open a limited inventory, as you said, out of the gate and move along gradually to the casino floor and to the F&B and then to entertainment? Would you step in that way, or do you think you can open an entire hotel at once?
Well, I would step into it. And here's another reason why, John, is we're living through a culture of accountability right now. If we open up a property and people get sick in that property and it's traced back to that property, we're going to cut our legs off a second time. And that second time is going to be more painful than the first. So we have to do this in some smart kind of way. It would seem to me if we can manage it with 300, 400, 500 rooms, then we go up to 800 rooms or 1,000 rooms. We need to manage this and prove that we can be trusted and that we're safe. Not that we're untrustworthy. I'm not saying that. That our processes can be trusted, that our buildings can be trusted, that people can come here for their 2.7-day stay and go home and not be infected. If we open at a large scale, the likelihood of us having some infections and some cross-contamination is worrisome to me. And, that, again, that second hit could really hurt, John.
We had Matt Maddox, the CEO of Wynn Las Vegas, over the weekend, last weekend, talk about a mid-May opening and had some provisions about how that would look in the Wynn Encore model here in Las Vegas. What did you think about his ideas? Would you be on board with some of the initiatives that he suggested?
Oh, I think so. I think that look, they were starting before we closed. They were the first ones to implement temperature testing. So even before we closed, they seemed to step ahead of the pack by employing technologies, temperature reading. But yes, I think those are the steps that we need to take. Here's the important thing, John. We must take steps, because not taking steps is not an option. Not reopening is not an option. So we have to reopen, and we have to take steps to reopen. So yeah, I applaud the steps that he's taken completely.
Do you think that tourists, and even those of us who live in Las Vegas, are going to have to expect having their temperature monitored, wearing a mask to go into a Las Vegas resort or even a restaurant? Do you think we're going to have to be prepared for that culturally, at least for the short term?
Well, I think America, not just Las Vegas. I mean, look at New York. New York City now, to walk around New York, you have to wear a mask. So I'm living here in Summerlin, and I had to get out of my house the other day, so I took a drive for a half hour in my car just around the neighborhood. Everybody's wearing masks in the shopping centers right now, in the parking lots everywhere. Right. So I think that this is more of a national expression, and I think that we need to embrace it, certainly.
What about, I've heard it argued that airports are going to kind of lead the way in terms of health scanning. As airports go, maybe our entertainment venues will follow, or our nightclubs will follow in some kind of you go through a security line, and then you go through a separate screening for health. Are we looking at at airports and airlines across the country to kind of have them take the lead, at least in a suggestive way, about how to do this?
I think so. When we take a look at the leaders of what we'll call dense public gathering areas, airports obviously have been in the forefront of security and detection in prior to the virus. So yes, and I think that they're most equipped to test these programs, get the technology in place, and then hand it off. And I understand from what I've seen and the conversations I've had is those steps are being taken. If they can manage temperature through the airports, then certainly we can manage it when they get here. But if they don't manage it, we don't want to send people away and not allow them into our building. So it's critical that the travel industry manage this as well. We can't have one link not doing it, then everything falls upon the other link.
Have you seen or been part of any room designs, restaurant, dining room designs that are COVID-19 affected since this all started? Have you seen plans or blueprints or even physical rooms where the tables are spaced apart and the seats around those tables are spaced apart? You had a chance to observe that, and do you think it'll work?
I have seen that, and we've taken a look even at different floor plans, two-dimensionally, John, is how much seating do we lose in this shape, in this this kind of configuration? We lose about 40 to 60%. So think about the significance when, we typically, a restaurant is about 11 people per square, one person per 11 square feet. A nightclub would be one person about every 13 or so square feet. So when you look at spreading that, now you have one person every 20 square feet. That's a huge change to our operating model. It's between 40 and 60% based upon the configuration. But there's other little things, if I can add to that for a second, John. Sure. For example, can the server who touches you, touches the food, touches water glasses, can that person bring food to the table now? I suggest no. I suggest there needs to be a designated food runner who does nothing but bring food to the tables. Servers can then touch money, do transactions and such. I saw a floor plan that I thought was very creative that almost goes back to the old diner model, if you will, the Peppermill's model, where there's a cashier at the front door. So none of the employees are touching money or touching credit cards within a restaurant. Even in a fine dining establishment, you would pay a cashier, so to speak, on the way out so that all the transactions are kept there. And that contains, the contamination in that area. I think all these little steps, are going to have to be taken to some degree.
So what you're saying is the Peppermill, which opened, I think, in 1970, is actually an industry leader now.
Well, you think about it, that cashier makes the food server safer. And it's a process that makes sense now. And my servers can't wash their hands every 30 seconds. So if servers bus tables and take care of customers, food runners run food to the table who designated for that, there's no contamination there. If the cashier collects the money on the way out, there's no contamination there. It's this kind of compartmentalization, if you will, John, that I think is going to start to take over operations in the business. And, it's not overwhelming. It makes sense. And, a server becomes a food runner. I think we move people around. I don't think this necessarily means a loss of jobs. One other interesting thing about the model, since we're talking industry, is if a server has 4 tables, now with somebody running the food and somebody else doing the transactions, that server could have maybe 5, 6, 7 tables. Right. So the economic model starts to make sense. Servers can have more tables. The food runners support the servers. The cashiers support the servers. It's a different kind of model, but it still can work with a little push and pull.
What do you think, John, of the we're still at this moment having the debate on Capitol Hill about getting more PPP money out to independent small business owners and restaurant owners, especially where I live in downtown Las Vegas. That's a very high population of people. What do you think about the viability of independent small business, the mom and pop places here in Las Vegas and everywhere else to bounce back from this? I've heard different experts give, kind of pessimistic reads on what the percentage of those owners are going to be able to come back from this. What do you think about the future of the independent small business owner in this climate?
I actually have become more optimistic over time, John. If you asked me that question 6 weeks ago, I would have given you a worse answer than today. Here's what I think. I think that we're going to lose some for sure, but I believe that the second level of stimulus for the government in the reopening package, the reset package, is going to include some inventory credits and a percentage of payroll credits. So what worries me about a lot of these operations, John, is their refrigerators are empty. Even their kegs of beer now are bad. They have to be spoiled. So they don't have the money for inventory and reopening. That means that they're not going to buy food from the farmers, from the food manufacturers, from the distributors. This goes right down the line. So this is a big deal. We need these restaurants to fill their refrigerators to pump the entire economy. So with those types of considerations, I believe the government program is in place now to sustain us for another 6 weeks or so. After that, of course, they're talking about another level of stimulus. If they implement the inventory startup stimulus, that gives all these operations a reason to hang in there, and they can buy inventory and they can jumpstart it. There's one difference, John. I don't want to ramble, but there's one difference I need to talk about with you. In the past, when restaurants weren't doing well, John, we didn't tell people that. We never told people that we were weak. We never knew that we're not going to tell about if you don't come, we're going to close in 6 months. We never said those kinds of things because we never want the consumer to alienate us, and they do when we come off weak. For the first time in my lifetime, the entire country knows that we are hurting. So locals want to support these restaurants. They don't want to see them close. Tourists don't want to see these businesses go down. There's a difference in the attitude of the consumer to want to support these businesses. So, we got to look at the beer companies doing curbside pickup podiums that we can use out front. So the curbside pickup becomes a better process. We got to have the POS companies put terminals out there that are wireless so we can do actual pickups on the street. I think we need to take a look at some more mall streets, like Fremont, and open up some areas where there's clusters of restaurants throughout throughout our communities so that, on certain days of the week, maybe we can do more outside seating to offset the seating lost on the inside, John. That's something the cities could help do. Even on Fremont, a little more outdoor seating to offset seating lost inside could make a huge difference. So I think that the city needs to make some moves. The feds are making some moves. When you look at all these moves, I believe that, and I'm going to be bold here, I believe that 75% of us reopen. The question is,
really?
The question is, how does the marketplace respond to us? And, Wynn can talk about turning the lights on and reopening, and so can the other mega resorts here in town. But if people don't come, it doesn't matter. So we have to cause people to come. And I believe when we reopen, there are people who are going to come. There are people who are not going to come. And I third it. For example, a third of the population is probably going to be pretty quick to come. A third of the population is not going to come until they see a vaccine. And then there's that middle third, John. If we can get that middle third to come, that's when it starts to work. Again, the ones that are going to come, the ones who are not going to come, but that middle third is where our future lies, in my view.
I have a theory about, or maybe I'll pose it this way to you, a question about what kind of customer we're going to get in Las Vegas when the city first opens itself up to tourism again. Are we going to see the more high end, the more refined, the more luxury type of customer, or do you think we're going to see more of a value customer in Las Vegas? And how should the industry adjust to its own market testing here?
It's interesting. I was having a conversation the other day with Kristen Chenoweth from Broadway. And we were talking about the Broadway theater, and that tends to be a more affluent marketplace. That tends to be a slightly older demographic in the marketplace. And those two factors scare the heck out of them. They feel that the younger demo, the less affluent demo, is more of the risk taker, right, and is more likely to travel. Then, of course, the older, more affluent who doesn't need to and is more reluctant to. I think we move into a value proposition for a while, is my view.
Right.
Don't you agree?
And I think so. And talking to industry figures, I believe that is just a read on the type of people who are more likely to travel to Las Vegas in this climate. I really do. Yeah. I think I have a feeling about like where I am now in Fremont Street and some of the more the legacy hotels on the Strip, whatever company they're connected to, are going to be the ones to open first, and then move our way up. That's why it was interesting to see Maddox from Wynn Encore, which don't fit that category, taking something of a lead in their company about this too. So they're already thinking in that direction also.
Also, keep in mind we have some Asian travel restrictions, which directly impacts their guest mix in a property like that. So that would be a red flag to me as well, because that's a significant segment of their audience. So that concerns me as well. I think people need to see people in hotels. What we need images of casinos full with people having fun, restaurants full of people having fun, so that the consumer at home can see, wow, look at all those people, and apparently everybody's safe. That's when we'll start to see that older demo. They need to see it to believe it, I think. And when they see it, then I think the doors will open for them. Do you think, John, I was having this conversation too with a friend of mine who's lived in Las Vegas for a long time. Can we sell civically that image with people with protective masks over their faces? Everything you described, but that? Are we going to have to re-engineer how people think about that image? Because we could more easily fill a casino with folks if they're covered than not, right? Years ago when you saw a police car in front of a bar, it was the last place in the world you wanted to go. Right? It sent a terrible message. And years later, after 9/11 and things changed, now when you see a police vehicle or a police cop or a cop in front of a bar, it's a feeling of well-being. You understand it's a safety measure. And, it was an interesting phenomenon to go through that as a bar owner, operator, because, I've always been friends with the police officers, and I used to tell them, please don't park in front. You're killing my business. Now they can park in front. They don't kill my business anymore. My point is this. I think the view of a mask from it looking scary is it's going to start to look safe to people. I think that's a sociological change. Also, they're going to be wearing them at home. They're going to be wearing them in their offices. They're probably going to be having their kids wear them in school. So you know, I just think this is more of a national issue than it is a Las Vegas issue. But I'm with you, John. You know, the vision of a casino, of a dealer wearing a mask and a server wearing a mask is not exactly complimentary of the image we want to portray in Las Vegas, but it is the image of America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not alone in it. That's for sure. I have to ask you about Bar Rescue. What's the status of the TV show through all this environment?
Well, we stopped shooting 36 days ago. Came straight home, and we shot, by the way, our 196th episode. So I was 4 episodes away from 200, John, which was a big deal to me. So we have 9 more to do this year. Of course, the show was not canceled. Some others have been, but mine has not been.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to coming back into production. The good news is we have about 10 or 12 new episodes that we haven't aired yet. And ratings are up about 28, 30%. So show's doing great. And I'm looking forward to coming back. If you've ever seen the Puerto Rico episode we did, John, Operation Puerto Rico, we saved the whole town. And I have this vision of Bar Rescue resetting America, of going into a city and rescuing 3 or 4 restaurants at the same time and getting them all open. You know, trying to get a whole cluster of restaurants open at the same time, trying to get Main Street open at the same time. So
a neighborhood open.
Get back to work. Yep.
Right. And what does your gut tell you about a timeline? I'm often asked about it. Are we going to be back to normal in June? What do you think of July? What do you think? When do you think this is going to start to become lifted for us in Las Vegas and everywhere else, where we can start to step toward a return to public commiserating and doing what we like to do here in Las Vegas?
You know, my assistant just took his antibody test, and it turns out that he did have the coronavirus 2 weeks ago. And he's been home, of course. Sean, who you've spoken to, John.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He did have the coronavirus. They did get the antibody test. He tested positive for the antibody. So his view is he's happy. He can go out now. He can't get it. He has the antibodies. You know, there's thousands of people in our city who are going to get that results. There's millions of people across America who are going to get that result. And I know people who have taken the antibody test, never even knew they had it. I think once we start getting our hands around the antibody test, that's step forward. I think by fall, we're going to have some valid treatments that are not a vaccine, but they're treatments that'll make the disease a lot less dangerous. And then I think, you know, probably a year from now, we'll see a vaccine. You know, I think Vegas is going to have to follow those stages, and we're going to have to ramp. And, you know, my only fear is I love this city. I love our industry. You know that, John. My only fear is that we step too big, too quick, and cause a misstep that makes people scared to come here. And that can't happen. We've done a good job as a city managing this. When you watch national news, Las Vegas doesn't come up anywhere, right? Our stats are not bad. We've contained this well. I think our governor has done a great job with the resources that he has from the feds, which has not been much. So I'm proud of the way we've handled this. And because of that, we've stayed out of the national news. We are not a COVID-19 destination, so to speak. So that's good. I just want to make sure we keep it that way.
Well, yeah, when we make news, John, you know this, it's for what we've done instead of how it's hit us. It's the shots of the Strip. The sacrifice of shutting down the Las Vegas Strip is a massive message across the country. And we're known for doing that. So I think, I agree totally. We've certainly done our part to sacrifice and adhere to those safety measures. And, you know, I don't know what else to say. We're all in the same ecosystem here, you know.
Well, the last thing we want is a property to open and then have it hit the news that a bunch of COVID, infections happened because of that property. That scares me. We've done a great job managing it to now. I just want us to keep managing it effectively and sort of step into it, not run into it. And I think that's probably smart for us all.
Yeah, and we have a lot of smart people who are trying to solve this problem and get us back to that point, including you. And I deeply appreciate your time, John. And I smile when I think of you and us at the gala and all the times I've seen you out on the scene. And I really am. I'm eager to get back to that environment, and so we can do that again.
Yeah, me too, buddy. Stay safe.
You too, John. Thanks for your time. Always a great time.
My pleasure, John. Be well.